What is up, Solo Cups? My name is Jon Solo, and please ignore the bags under my eyes. Being jet-lagged 14 hours and having a sick baby means that a good night's sleep is a bitter memory. Today, I'm talking to one of the most successful horror content creators on the planet, Zach from the well-known YouTube channel CZsWorld. I met Zach back in 2019 at VidCon, where a mutual friend introduced us, and I accidentally paid for his meal at Red Robin. Since then, we've both lost our minds chasing YouTube greatness. And while the sacrifices have paid off, it's been a long road for the both of us. So in addition to discussing his realm of expertise, the world of horror, we also discuss the messed up origins of his channel, his horror origins. Yeah, I would make that this episode's title, but the algorithm's not going to know what to do with it. If you're a fan of the horror genre or curious about what it's like to have a career in content creation, then you're going to like this episode. If not, then you probably won't, but just give it a chance anyway, won't you? Remember to sacrifice those like and subscribe buttons to get more content like this. Leave a comment telling me who you want me to talk to next, and most importantly, enjoy. My guest today is a man whose love for horror, like Michael Myers, just won't die. He's watched enough scary movies to survive the first act, but die ironically in the third, and is known for dissecting them with the same precision that Hannibal Lecter dissects his victims. His most popular series, Horror History and Things You Missed, dive deep into rabbit holes that even the bravest dachshund would cower in fear from, have garnered tens of millions of views since premiering on YouTube nearly 8 years ago, and built a community of more than 1.6 million bloodthirsty fanatics. This is going to be a very special interview if we both survive. Put your hook hands together for this connoisseur of horror, the madman behind CZsWorld, Zach Morris.
Yo, what's up? Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited for this because every week I get these comments asking me to do something with Jon Solo, so now we finally have something to point him to.
Dude, you should have heard just this week when I was on my Japan trip with the community. I was doing a little Q&A on our tour bus, and somebody asked, like, who's the next interview going to be with? And I said, Zach from CZsWorld. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, ooh, and whispering. No way. And like, hell yeah. So I always knew that there would be some hype, but it's good to just get that confirmation in the real world, you know?
For sure.
So first question, and it's a personal question of mine. What does the name CZsWorld come from?
I can tell you that I'm CZ and it's my world.
Okay. That's what I figured.
If I told you what CZ stood for, then I'd have to kill you.
Fair enough. I always thought of it as, well, that's the thing, is like, I just thought of it as like CZ means Zach. And I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense. The C, I have no idea what the C stands for. Might be creepy, might be, T, I have no idea, but
I love hearing people's theories about it, though.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own theory that they're convinced is correct.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I always just default and I just think like Zach's World. But then like literally I was just like, when I was writing down questions for this, I was like, wait, like where does the C even come from? But yeah. I won't pry any further. So obviously you're known for your deep dives and analyses into horror movies. And I was wondering, as somebody who is also like has found a particular niche on YouTube, like, have you always been into horror, like since you were young, or is it something that you discovered, you know, later in life or maybe like as you made content?
Yeah, I think it was more of a gradual thing when I was a teenager. When I was very young, I don't remember having especially a proclivity to horror, even though I liked it. I think it was more like when I started making my own stuff that I kind of became more drawn to it. I always say that people always ask me why horror, you know?
Yeah.
And I always reference Donnie Darko because in that movie they say like the two strongest emotions are love and fear, and horror movies are the movies where you get both of those in spades.
That's a good point. I like that. Yeah, I I wondered that because, like, I wonder how much a little kid can be into horror in particular, and like what.
Oh no, some people definitely are. Like talking to my fans and stuff, and seeing people's different journeys with horror. There are definitely families where, you know, their parents were into horror and they were just raised on horror and they always loved it.
That's cool.
And I've talked about this in a video actually. Like what determines how someone is going to turn out? Because you have kids that see a horror movie too young and they become traumatized and now they hate horror. But then you also have kids that were raised on it and then it's just like something they did with their parents and they've always loved it ever since they were little.
Totally. Because like I did not like horror growing up at all. And I blame Goosebumps specifically because I have this like weird core memory of we rented The Haunted Mask and we were watching it and I was like so terrified of it. And we were like watching it in the living room. I was watching it with my older brother. And to get out of watching the scary parts, I was eating a snack in the kitchen. I'm pretty sure I was eating like a hot dog or something. And I'd like be like, I got to go finish my hot dog. And I'd run away. And then I would come back and it would be terrifying. And I'd be like, still got some hot dog left. I'm leaving this. So, and then from then on, it never really appealed to me. Like even just the trailers alone were enough to freak me out. There was like a few horror movies that I found randomly appealing, like Saw 2. I really liked, and what was another one? Like It freaked me the hell out as a kid.
Yeah, I just came out with an It video yesterday.
I saw that actually.
Yeah, I actually talked a lot about like how that one was kind of one of those movies that really got me into horror because I discovered it on my own on YouTube when I was a teenager.
Oh, no way.
And was really freaked out by it. I saw it in chunks on YouTube. You know how people in the early days would upload like a bunch of 10-minute chunks because you could only do 10-minute uploads back then.
Yeah, like
so there was this channel
16.
that just uploaded horror movies. And there were, you know, that's such a long movie. I think there were like 18 chunks or something, but I watched it like that for the first time.
Oh my God. Yeah, that one, like you look at it now and I feel like a lot of people write it off as like being kind of corny and like not that scary, but as a kid, it was terrifying. I mean, like just that one shot of the guy who like, I don't know if he cut his fingers off or had his fingers ripped off and like has it written in blood on the wall. Like that like resonated with me so deeply. I was like, nothing would be scarier than that clown like coming to attack you while you're like naked and completely vulnerable in the tub.
Right.
Although I haven't seen the movie in forever, I don't even know if that's what happens, but that's what I connected in my head at the time.
Yeah, there's am I allowed to spoil it for your audience?
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's a part in the second half where the adult version of Stan from the Losers Club hears that Pennywise has come back and he marches straight into the bathroom and kills himself.
Jesus.
Couldn't show that part on YouTube, obviously, because
yeah, right.
They're so sensitive. Actually, you'll probably have to cut me saying that, but
yeah, I know. It's like we won't get too far into the YouTube BS convo right now, but like it's so weird that like if the video is not made for children, like why can we not have an adult conversation? You know, why do we need to like use all of these codes like PDF file and whatnot when we're discussing serious topics?
Well, I feel like what happened is people started doing that because of, you know, basically just like the urban legends of YouTube, like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say this. And people come up with their own ideas of what they can and can't do, which aren't really based on the YouTube actual community guidelines in terms of service.
That's very true.
So people started doing that. And I think this actually started with TikTok, but people started doing unalived.
Oh, yeah, unalived.
Which was never a rule that they had.
No.
But people started doing it and it became popular. And then sewer slide became another popular substitute word.
Sewer slide.
And I feel like what happened is those words became so popular just through the urban legend that YouTube kind of saw that and they're like, well, if people are substituting it, then those words must be offensive. And now they actually are hitting you for saying those words.
That's crazy.
So like by people perpetuating that idea, it became a reality.
Yeah, it
which
was
really
like
annoys me.
Self-fulfilling prophecy sort of thing. We'll be back after a quick word from our sponsor, Squarespace. Do you got a business idea that you're ready to launch, or maybe a side project that you're finally ready to show the world? Either way, you'll need a professional place to plant your digital flag. And that's where Squarespace comes in. When it comes to web design, Squarespace changed the game long ago. You've probably heard me rave about their award-winning templates and that slick fluid engine that lets you drag and drop things exactly where you want. But what you might not know is that they've taken things even further with their latest innovation, Design Intelligence. This new AI-powered feature is built on 2 decades of Squarespace's industry expertise, allowing you to create a completely custom website in minutes. All you gotta do is answer a few quick questions about your brand, your vibe, and your color preferences, and boom, you've got a website. Whether you're setting up a store for digital or physical products, booking appointments, or just putting your passion on display, Design Intelligence gives you the tools to do it quickly and beautifully. Want to try it out for free? Go to squarespace.com/Jon Solo to start your trial. And when you're ready to make it official, use code Jon Solo to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain. I always wonder that, like, what is allowed and what isn't, because like all of my videos fall under the education category, so I feel like I get a little more leniency on what I'm able to talk about and get away with without getting flagged. It's like the things that have gotten me flagged the most are just like uncensored nudity, and usually it's in like a Renaissance painting or something like that, where I spent like the first 2 or 3 years like vehemently opposed to censoring anything, any sort of art. And I got away with it for a long time. And then just out of nowhere, every single time I post an uncensored boob, even if it is like was painted in the 1700s, I get in trouble basically.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be the case where they would always say that context matters, and if you're doing it in like an educational or documentary context, you're okay, and that worked for a while. But it seems like, honestly, this year, like as soon as the calendar flipped over to 2025, that seems to have not been the case. And I was actually told by YouTube about a month ago that like there are certain words that context doesn't matter, and if you say it,
oh my God,
you're gonna get age restricted.
I think you have one of the most ridiculous instances of something getting flagged that I've seen, where I think you showed like a cadaver report or something like that.
Oh, it was a body bag.
A body bag? That was enough to...
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah, it's like, this is literally the thing that exists to hide the body so you don't have to see it.
Right.
Like this is exactly what you want me to do.
Right, like that is
But then you still hit me for it.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah, it's getting a little ridiculous now. I feel like people have been like kind of waiting for the pendulum to swing back, and it just hasn't yet.
Yeah, I think we're still kind of swinging in that direction. But then that's also the thing I found is if it is a pendulum that swings back and forth, then you want to be as safe as possible all the time so that when it inevitably does swing back,
right,
then you're still safe.
That's true.
Because there are things that they said were okay a year ago that are now no longer okay.
Right. Yeah, I'm surprised that a lot of my older videos have not gotten flagged yet. I'm sure even me just speaking that out loud will manifest some sort of retroactive bot flagging, but I've gotten lucky so far.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like if a video is getting more attention, then it's more likely to crop up again. So if they're just kind of quietly gathering views in the background, you're most likely going to be safe.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and I think that's mostly what mine do at this point is like, it's the benefit of, I feel like that is a benefit of even this niche genre of content is, even if the views don't come rolling in immediately, like if it's evergreen, then it will just slowly trickle in, and it's sustainable, but only after you've been making content for like as long as we have, where you don't need that implosion of views for covering a subject to be worth it, basically.
I think that's the great thing about both of our channels is we have that evergreen element. I think last year my most viewed video was a video that initially debuted in 2023, and it just had the legs to keep going. It was the Clown Horror History, because last year we also had Terrifier 3, so that kind of boosted that back up again.
Right. How do you get away with covering something like Terrifier? Like, do you have to censor, like, censor everything, or?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of censorship and a lot of just being careful how I word things and what I actually show.
Okay.
Because, I mean, my videos are analysis, so
Right.
as long as I'm showing enough to convey the idea that they know, what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have to show like all the goriest moments.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I wonder how it works for somebody like Dead Meat James with his kill count series. I'm like, how can you show kill? I haven't watched his stuff in a while, but like, how can you show kills on YouTube at this point? It just doesn't. It almost doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of blurring and a lot of just avoiding the really really gruesome stuff
That makes sense.
in the audio, that is.
So I'm also curious. Like you already mentioned Terrifier. I know you've covered. I mean, you've covered basically every. I would say every horror movie out there, but I know that that's not the case. But a wide range of them. Like Hereditary is another great one. We already talked about it. Like, do you even get scared of horror movies anymore?
No, I'm totally desensitized.
Are you like watching it from just like mostly an analytical point of view, even like on the first watch through?
I think I always watch stuff with an analytical point of view, regardless of if I'm doing it for a video or not.
Okay.
But I think horror still fascinates me because, for one, like there are still people that it scares, and it always surprises me if I'm just out, at a non-horror type of event, and I talk to people and I start talking about, they start asking about what I do. And when I mention horror movies, they're like, oh, no, I don't watch horror movies. That's too scary. And there's so many people that are like that. And it's always just like jarring to me because in my world and my community on YouTube, everybody loves horror.
Right.
And I feel like everybody's kind of like me where they're a little bit desensitized to it. But then, yeah, the majority of people actually are scared by horror. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think horror like evokes such strong emotions in people that it makes the stories really interesting.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that's like really what I'm there for.
Yeah, I feel like I don't get I have to like really set myself up in like a specific environment to get like traditionally scared of a horror movie, like turn off all the lights, even, watch with headphones on, like just to really immerse myself. But usually it's like as a fan of just like movie making in general, like my analytical eye is just like, oh, that was a cool shot. Like I can sense that they're building anticipation here. Obviously something is coming up, things like that. But I don't get like, I'm not worried about, I don't watch a horror movie and then I'm worried that like the thing is hiding around the corner, or I'm not suddenly afraid of ghosts again or something like that.
I always wish that I could go back to the mindset that I had when I was younger and like when I was a teenager and stuff, where I could watch a horror movie and then have it still affect me and be thinking about it afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
what's that movie? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where
right.
you can like erase your memory of certain people. If I could just erase my memory of watching movies and stuff so that I could re-experience like, oh, how scary was this movie watching it for the first time.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's like another thing that's like really magical about horror, is like about the horror genre, is that first viewing experience for the most part is like unlike any other, where, action movies, romantic comedies, anything, like some things that just have like replay value where it's just satisfying to watch it over and over again and just like see those cool scenes. But with horror, at least for me in particular, it's like I usually watch it once, and once I don't feel like I can experience it that same way, I'm kind of done. Even if I really loved it, like Barbarian or Cobweb were two movies where I was just like, Barbarian, I will say Barbarian actually did freak me out with the just amount of anticipation and like those long shots like down the hallway, and you're like sitting there. I feel like it you always have that moment in horror movies where you're yelling at the character to not go deeper into the situation, or just like turn around. You can still escape at this point. And I feel like Barbarian did that really well in a way that other modern horror movies haven't. And it didn't follow.
And I love how it resets the perspective. So you go, you go into this scary basement area, and then it pulls out, and then it's like, okay, we're going to go in and go a little bit deeper this time.
Right.
And there's something so satisfying about that structure to me.
I totally agree. And it did a great job of like, so like she goes into the basement, spoilers for Barbarian, because that movie's like, I went into that knowing zero about it, and that was by far the best way to experience it. Best way to experience most movies. But like, you're initially just like, don't go down in the basement and get that toilet paper. Like, it's just sitting right there. It's right at the bottom of the steps. She goes down, and then she looks over, and then I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but she ends up discovering that like secret door, and you're like, all right, well, definitely don't go in there. And then she goes down in there, and then there's a fucking another secret door, and it's just like, are you kidding me? Like, just stop. Like, just go to the surface. Get out.
On a logical standpoint, yes, but also, if it were me, I would be curious to see, like, okay, how far does this go?
Totally.
I think I also have like a fascination with just the idea of secret rooms. And
hell yeah.
I think it comes from like growing up playing video games and like discovering secret areas and stuff.
Right.
But
how
cool
would that
if I was
be?
in an Airbnb and I found a secret room and it kept going and going, I would definitely want to explore and be like, okay, how far does this go?
Right. I would try to like set up some kind of like, I don't know, safety net for myself on the way there. I'm like tying a rope around my waist and like, hey, somebody hold on to this or whatever. But that's funny that you say that, because like I've always thought that too, and just had this like weird fantasy of finding like, that secret bunker in the backyard, or, it's really basic, but pull a book off the bookshelf and suddenly it's moving. Like, that would just be so cool. Such a cool discovery. And obviously, I've never encountered anything like that in person. Escape rooms get pretty close, though.
There was an Airbnb that I stayed in one time. There was like, so it was one of those basements where it's part of a main house, and you go around the back and just punch a code in.
Okay.
And the Airbnb is basically the basement.
Oh.
But there was like this big sliding door along the wall, and you could kind of see that there was something behind it, but it was dark back there, and the sliding door wouldn't move.
Oh,
and
man.
so I think I ended up like sticking my phone through and shining the light to try to see what was over there. And there was a staircase, and I was like, oh my God, this is kind of like Barbarian.
Seriously?
And yeah, so what it ended up being was that it just connected to the main house.
Okay.
And that was just their their house that I was looking into.
Not as quite as
But
exciting.
yeah.
Meanwhile,
it was cool, the idea that there could be like an extra thing you can unlock by by like snooping around.
Right. Like, meanwhile, they're like up on the top floor, and they're like, what's that light coming in from downstairs? What's going on? I did have one friend's house where they had a cellar, and it did go surprisingly deep, and we found this door that it was like a closet door. You open it up, and there was a staircase, and it went upward. And being a kid who doesn't understand how the layout of the house, we were just like, where could this staircase possibly go? We go up it, and it's like a trap door on top of it. And it just turned out that it was a really old house, and that used to be the main way into the basement, and then they just carpeted over the door. But that was like probably my closest comparison to like an experience like that.
Yeah, that stuff's really interesting too. Like the staircase that goes to nowhere.
Yeah,
and then you go down there, and you're like, what lever do I have to pull, or like what secret do I have to do to unlock the rest of this pathway?
Yeah, right. And like, why is it?
Or if it's like a platform 9 3/4 type of thing.
Yeah.
You just got to bust through it.
Yeah, just if you're a wizard, you can do it. That's how you find out. You just run head first into it.
If you make it through, you're a wizard. If you don't make it through, you have brain damage.
Exactly. So are there any like non-horror movies that you watch? Like, are you into anything outside of horror?
I am. Lately, I just haven't had time to keep up with, like, even horror stuff. It's been hard to keep up with because it just takes so long to make content, and
Yeah.
I spend all of my time doing that. But yeah, they're definitely, I was initially just a fan of movies in general, and I think I kind of gravitated towards horror once I started making my own stuff, like in high school and college,
Yeah,
and that happened kind of gradually.
I was going through your old library, and I saw that like you have a couple of like little horror short films that you made. Was that
Yeah.
like in the high school years?
So I started doing the short films in high school because way back at the beginning of my channel, I started off doing like roller coaster tycoon videos. I would make these parks and do tours, and then I just became, because I loved movies and stuff, I became interested in telling stories. So I started doing like movies within the roller coaster tycoon software, Machinima,
Okay.
and then that's kind of like, okay, I've done what I can do with this. Let's start doing live action stuff. So I started off doing kind of like mystery action stuff when I was in high school. And
Okay.
then I think like around the end of high school, and they always kind of had like that creepy element because that always fascinated me. But probably like end of high school, early college, I really locked in on horror.
Okay, nice. Yeah, it was I was like, it's always interesting to go back and see what people started doing on YouTube versus what they do now. And I'm sure you have a ton of unlisted videos and private videos just like I do, but yeah, I was fascinated by the fact that you were even doing horror like in videos that you uploaded like 16 years ago. I was like, man, this
Yeah,
has really
I've
been
had
a
the same
lifelong
channel all the
thing.
way through YouTube. So whatever I started off just doing like hobby videos at the
Yeah.
beginning, it was all on the same channel.
Okay. Yeah, my yeah, I was doing like I was still doing I've always just done videos where I talk to the camera. That's just like
Hmm.
the videos that I always liked on YouTube had a guy talking to a camera. I did a couple of like stupid little projects for school. But outside of that, I've never really gotten as creative as at least as some of the stuff that I saw on your end.
So I kind of had the opposite journey to where I started off doing like more cinematic stuff, and then when I was in college, I was in film school, and I had access to like the equipment cage, so we could sign
Mm.
up and check out the equipment, and then I could use other students who were just looking to get experience as crew members and stuff, and just be able to make these shorts basically for free. And I knew when I graduated, I wasn't going to have access to all of that stuff anymore. And that's when I started doing the commentary. And that ended up being like the thing that took off for me.
Yeah. So you went to school for filmmaking then?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that?
I studied screenwriting and editing.
Oh, nice.
I would have done new media, but that did not exist yet at the time. And actually, like when I was going there, they launched their new media program.
Okay. Do you feel like that was beneficial for like you finding success on YouTube and like getting the understanding the basics of it?
I think it contributed, but it maybe wasn't the main contributor. I
Mm-hmm.
think, like, for me, I got something out of going to film school, which was getting experience on set. Like I mentioned, just like getting to be hands on with the equipment and stuff that I never would have been able to touch. And
Totally.
then just being around other people that were interested in making films and getting to network and work on their stuff and just get a lot of experience like that. On the technical side, like the stuff that I learned in school was probably less than the stuff that I learned on my own, just like watching YouTube tutorials and stuff, especially like on the post production side. Back then, they had us learning Avid, which when I started was like the industry standard for editing,
Oh,
but now it's mostly just used for like big production, like reality shows with like 15 editors on them.
okay. Yeah, I've never even heard of Avid.
And like that's not something I use at all now anymore.
Yeah, are you you mostly like use Adobe software, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like we've talked a little bit about the struggles of hiring and growing our team, and
I think that's been the hardest part of my career so far is getting the right people around me.
Yeah, and you have such a branded, like, your brand identity is so specific. Like, even I was
Hmm.
looking at even like your earliest things that you missed content, and as early as back then, you, I don't know, everything seemed very high quality, and I don't know, just like it was edited very very polished. I like defaulted to Final Cut and starting off with iMovie because that was just like the most approachable thing for me at the time. But I do regret a little bit not getting more into the Adobe software just because it's so you can do so much more with it than with
Hmm.
Apple shit. Now I found a great editor who uses Adobe products and it's not my problem anymore. But
Yeah.
even then, like I wish that if I had experimented more with that stuff, I think I would have more of an idea of what's possible and creative ways to present things versus how I do it now.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't like the software can make things easier or harder, but the vision of the editor is what's going to make it feel like a high quality thing.
Right. And like, I also feel like, I guess to my benefit, it's made because I don't have a super specific editing style. I had an easier time finding editors this time around because, like, honestly, just like Final Cut is can just be so basic.
Hmm.
I honestly feel like half my videos are just like fancy PowerPoint presentations. It's like
Yeah.
throw on some clever plug-in transitions and green screen overlays, and it's all pretty easy. But your stuff is, I don't know, it's just very elaborate and
Yeah,
specific.
and sometimes I wish that it was simpler because it would be easier to hire people maybe.
Yeah,
And in my mind, it should be easier to hire people because I have such a specific style and I have like guides for the editors, style guides and stuff for them to follow. But I
right.
think also a lot of times people get intimidated by that
Hmm.
because it's so much information and it's very specific.
Yeah, I could
But
see that.
in my mind, like a good editor will be excited to see all that documentation, and they are. Like when if I hire someone who really gets it,
Hmm.
they're like, "Oh, this is super helpful. Like nobody has this. Thank you for providing
Totally.
all of these instructions and stuff."
Yeah, like the editors that I interviewed, a lot of them would say like it's pretty amazing how like other I don't even know how like the phrase to use. Like it's not necessarily creators. Some of it is, but like create other let's just say other creators will hire an editor and then just like dump the footage into their lap and say like, okay, make
Yeah.
this look nice, like turn this into a video. Where when I went through my scripts with people and showed them like, you know, color coded parts of the script and I'll provide comments and then here's our drive with all the assets that you need. Like a lot of them like had that same reaction where they could focus more on just the creative editor part and not having to
Hmm.
start out with like the very basics of like
Right.
what do I even turn this into?
Yeah, and I think the creators that do just kind of dump their footage to the editor are like kind of damaging the post production industry because now and maybe this is just in my head, but I feel like now it's harder to find people that want to edit something specific like that and do a good job because it's like,
Hmm.
why put the effort in to make something like this when I can just get a job with like so and so reaction channel
Right.
and have this done in 5 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. Like, so many of the people that on like the YouTube job site that I know you use as well, like their previous work, like sometimes they have worked for a channel with like 20 million subs, and
Yeah.
I go on it and it's just like this ugly, loud, like Mr. Beast style presentation where they're screaming at the camera and have way too many like graphical edits and
Hmm.
in like the first couple of minutes, and it's just like I don't know. I feel like it's either you have that or I don't know. Just like on the other hand, you just have like somebody who can only do the basics and it just doesn't work, essentially.
Yeah, and the other side with the job sites is like they'll have their resume and they've worked for all these big YouTubers and stuff. So you think like, okay, they're kind of used to this. They know what they're doing. But then it's like you don't really know what the extent of that work was. So they might have worked with someone who has 10 million subs and puts out really high quality content, but there might have been like 6 editors on that video. And was that person, doing graphics or just doing audio, or like, did they just work on it a little bit and get fired and then somebody else took it over and made it look good?
Yeah. Like one of the editors that I hired who had me listed as a client, the video that he cited that he worked with me on was the video where he edited. It took him like, I don't know, it took him like 4 or 5 hours to get through a 2-minute intro that was could have been very basic. And at that point I just told him like, dude, this isn't working. Like I'm just going to take over myself. But then he linked the video I edited as an example of what he can do. I'm like,
exactly.
No, like absolutely not. Like, shit, I just slipped off my armrest.
I think we've talked about this before where people have done that for my stuff. And it's like, I'm not going to come after them and tell them like that they can't put that on their resume, even though they didn't really do the majority of it, because it's just not really worth the energy for me.
Right.
But for your audience, there have definitely been times where John has messaged me and asked like, oh yeah, this person says that they edited for you. Like, were they actually good?
Exactly. Yeah. I had to, because, I mean, also you're like one of the only other YouTubers that I talk to on a regular basis. But after seeing this person had listed me, I was like, okay, there has to be more of this going on than I'd like to believe. And
I don't know that there's necessarily a good solution for that.
No, not really. And I honestly, I initially, when I saw that, I had marked the video as like, no, he didn't work on this. And then I refreshed it, went on his profile, and there was just like a big red X over the video. And it said like the creator has denied this, that. And I'm like, well, that seems really harsh. Like it makes him look like a straight up liar, like, which I didn't really want to do. So,
and then as a creator, you also want to, you want to keep your reputation intact. So you don't want to be the bad guy who's like
that too.
Because what does that look like? It looks like a huge YouTube channel coming after like this little editor.
Right. Yeah. Like that's not fair.
The amount of work that they did on a video.
Yeah. I'm like, even though
and it's just not a good look, but at the same time, like I don't want other creators to hire people and not get what they're paying for.
Exactly.
So it's just like a problem with no solution, really.
Yeah. It's like, do I look out for the other creators, or do I want this guy to not be able to make a living, So you asked me earlier about non-horror stuff that I watched. So I brought up my top 100 on Letterboxd. Some of these, I think a lot of my favorite movies are like dark psychological thrillers, which I kind of put under, at least partially under the horror umbrella. Yeah.
Like the first thing that I would consider to not really be horror on there would be The Prestige.
Okay,
which is more of like a dark psychological thriller.
Yeah, that
Christopher Nolan.
That's a great movie. Are you pretty into Letterboxd?
Yeah, I have been logging everything probably since 2014.
Damn, dude. Yeah, I really like the idea of Letterboxd, and I just like don't update mine nearly as much as I should.
Yeah, I log everything that I see. I don't necessarily like focus a lot on like writing a good review that I want people to see, but it's more, I think the value in it is when I go back and someone reminds me of a movie, and it's like I've seen so many movies that it's hard to always remember what I thought of it, but then I can kind of go back and see like what were my initial reactions right when I first saw it, and that's a cool tool to have.
That is really cool. Yeah.
And just being able to track like what I've seen and what I haven't seen, and to have like this list of favorites. So Unbreakable's not really horror, even though the director is kind of known for horror, M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, right.
Have you seen Vantage Point?
Vantage Point, no.
It's like this action movie about this political assassination in France, I believe, but it's told from all of these different. It's like the same events being told from all of these different perspectives.
Okay.
Forrest Whitaker's in it. That's really high up there.
Yeah, that looks interesting. Yeah. No, I'm curious what I got on mine. It's probably nothing that's super interesting, to be honest. But
probably the one that'll surprise people the most for me is number 13. I have 500 Days of Summer.
No way.
Yeah, I love that movie.
That's a good movie. I like a lot of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's stuff. He's like very psychological with the way that he makes his movies. Oh,
Toy Story 3 is in my top 20. That's I used to be a big Pixar guy. I haven't kept up with the modern Pixar stuff as much, but I've seen every Pixar movie up through like Onward, I want to say.
okay. Yeah, dude, I've kind of fallen off the Pixar wagon as well. Like, there's a few, I've watched like probably every other Pixar movie that's come out, but they're just not as memorable as they used to be. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm sick of these one-word titles that Disney keeps doing, and like with Pixar and in Star Wars and everything. I'm like, the show, like Andor, shouldn't have been called Andor. Like there was a way more interesting title for that movie, for that show. I saw one comment, I think it was on a Red Letter Media video, that was like, it's called Andor because you can root for the good guys and or the bad guys.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, but I've been getting a little bit more into like the random, like more independent movies that just like randomly drop on Netflix or streaming services. Like one of my favorites that we watched recently is The Kid Detective. Have you heard of that one?
Okay.
It's
No, I haven't seen it.
it's about like, it starts off, it introduces you to the kid detective, which is like he's a kid solving mysteries around town, like who stole the fundraiser money and where did this lady's missing cat go, and he's like gets the key to the city and he's like the local town hero. And then it fast forwards like 20 years and he's an alcoholic, like still trying to be a detective. And it's like, it's one of those that like you'd consider like a black comedy where it's pretty morbid, but it's like also hilarious. One of my favorites recently that I'd highly recommend.
Yeah, I love stuff like that where it's like a kid or just something with a light atmosphere, but it's taken in a very serious way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those are some of my favorites because I don't know.
And I love like time skip movies or stories where there's like a past and future storyline.
Yeah, except what I hate is movies that start out somewhere and then it cuts and it's like 10 days earlier or some shit like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, now I like have a rough idea of what's happening. Like, this is not interesting anymore.
Right.
I remember, I have no idea what the movie was, but my friends and I were watching this movie in high school. It's like one guy chasing another guy being chased trips, guy chasing him, like goes to stab him. And the victim, he like lifts his hand up and he gets like stabbed in the hand and then it cuts and it goes 8 hours earlier. And like all of us in the room were just like, oh, fuck this. Like, I don't want to watch this movie that's got all this buildup just for a guy to get stabbed in the hand. Like, that's the exciting moment. Like, we just turned it off immediately.
It sounds like one of those movies, like just one of those comically bad movies that you would see like the real name commentary channels talking about.
Real name,
like a Jamie French or Drew Gooden.
Yeah,
or
right.
Curtis Connor.
Yeah, I think it was like when parkour was big, so I think there was like some kind of parkour element they were trying to play off of, and it was just like cheaply made. We were just like, absolutely not.
So you mentioned that, like, getting into the cheap streaming service, independent movies. So last month or 2 months ago, I was one of the judges for Dead Meat's Horror Awards show.
Oh, nice.
And so there were a bunch of movies that I had to catch up on because I've just been so busy over the last year working on content that I haven't been up to date on a lot of movies that have come out. So I'm binging all these movies. And there's this one called It's What's Inside that was on Netflix.
Okay.
And it was kind of a small sci-fi movie. It was a lot of the movies on that show were more sci-fi than horror, but it was the small, like, independent sci-fi type of thing. And the idea is that this guy brings a machine that lets you switch bodies with someone else to a party. It was
wow.
like someone was getting engaged, and he was having like a bachelor party or not a bachelor party, but kind of like a one last hurrah with all of his old friends. And the lengths that movie went to were insane. I don't want to spoil it, but
Okay.
basically they play a game where everybody switches bodies, and then they have to try to figure out who is in whose body.
Oh, nice. That's interesting.
And there are couples and hijinks that ensue. And it was like, immediately when I saw it, I knew that it was like one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay, I'll add that to our watch list then.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the movie All My Friends Hate Me?
It sounds familiar, but I haven't seen it.
It's basically like, if you have social anxiety of any kind, it's like, well, it'll make you really uncomfortable to watch. It's not a horror
Yeah.
movie, but it is kind of like a dark psychological movie where this guy, he's invited out to celebrate his birthday at like some big mansion Airbnb thing with his friends, and they keep like making rude comments and like doing things that he's like on the like, it could just be nothing, but it seems like, it genuinely seems like they hate him. And you basically go through the whole movie trying to figure out like what this guy did to make them not like him, or whether they don't like him at all and it's all just in his head. And
Yeah, that actually sounds awesome.
yeah, it's pretty good. I think you would like it.
I'm someone that overthinks everything, which I guess that's part of what people like about my videos, but
Yeah,
it
right.
can definitely be a detriment in social situations.
Totally. It's like, I do pretty good in, like, I'm always fine in the moment, and like, especially in the
Yeah.
moment, I'm pretty good at assuming everybody has the best interest at heart. Nobody's really trying to be a dick, and I can stay pretty chill. But then it's afterward when I'm like reflecting on the situation, where I'm like, what was that all about? You know, or like,
Yeah,
did
me
I
too.
say this thing that that he totally misinterpreted, you know?
And especially like with digital communications,
Oh my
if
God.
it's like
yeah,
a text
dude.
message and you don't get to see like what the tone was behind it,
Exactly.
because it's just words, and you can kind of you kind of have to assume what the context or the tone was.
Right. Like, yeah.
I can just spend way too much time over analyzing that stuff.
Yeah, I have like, you have some people that like you text that are like, they overuse the exclamation points and emojis and all of that. And then you have somebody like yourself who doesn't use really any of that. Like, you keep it pretty straightforward, and it's like, it's just interesting to compare the two. And I'm like, is this just him, or is he pissed at me? You know, or is he
Right.
annoyed by this comment that I made?
I feel like I use like over excessive punctuation in a way that, like, when I use it, people know that I'm not being serious.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just like
I'll
so over the top.
either use zero exclamation marks or like 100.
Yeah, I totally get that. That's kind of what I've started to do too. Like, usually I just try to like, then maybe this is the problem, is that I adapt however I communicate to however the other person is communicating. So at least over text, where I'm just like, this must be how they want the interaction to go if this is how they work, you know? So
Yeah.
I'll just do this to fit in with them, I suppose.
I also have to be careful when I'm talking to people that aren't familiar with like how I am, because I always just adorn everything with all of the spooky emojis, like the skull emoji, the coffin emoji, etc. And sometimes I just use the skull emoji like almost like a period. And if it's someone who's not used to me, then they think that I'm like adding a negative connotation to the message by doing that.
Totally. Yeah.
It's like, oh no, I like spooky things.
Right. I overuse the crying emoji a lot. Usually, like, I'll put the crying emoji for things that like make me happy, or I'm laughing, or
Yeah.
like, it's so versatile. It just because I feel like to me it just creates like a funny image of a crying characters.
Yeah,
So
I think I'm the exact same way where I never use it when I'm actually sad about something.
right.
But I'll use it as like, oh no, like so and so tripped and died,
Yeah.
rip.
Exactly.
100 crying emojis.
Yeah, and it's like so over the top.
Yeah.
So you've like me, your videos get like insanely detailed. You really like to dive into like the nooks and crannies of your subjects. So I was wondering, and I'm sure people at home are wondering, like, how does your research process usually start? Like, say for the It video that you just released.
So for the It video, it's like a subject matter that I'm very familiar with. So I just rewatch through it and I go through and pause every time I have something I want to write down. I write down all my notes, I timestamp everything, and then I go back, put everything in order, turn it into a script, and then start adding my analysis wherever it feels fit.
Are you like asking questions while watching the movie? Like, this character said this. Is there more to it? Or
I think it's not questions so much, but it's just things that I noticed. So, for example, in the It video, I'm watching it and I noticed there are like all of these shots where Tim Curry's looking directly into the camera, and it's like, what is this? What is the intended result of this from a psychological standpoint?
Right.
It's like he's addressing the audience directly, and it kind of makes it scary because there's the famous photo album scene where they're flipping through the photo album and it comes to life and Pennywise addresses them and talks to them and stuff. And by us seeing like the same camera angle that they're seeing, it kind of puts us in their shoes and makes us feel that same fear.
Totally. Yeah, I like that.
And there's some things that like, it's just something I'll kind of write down whatever I observe, and then I might not figure out what I want to say about that until I'm done doing the notes and I'm in the script process. And it's like, oh, I noticed that this scene, and this scene all have this in common, and I draw some kind of through line.
Do you usually end up with like a bunch of notes that you end up doing nothing with? Or do you try to make sure everything gets into the video that you could fit?
I wouldn't say it's a bunch of notes, but there's some things where I think it's going to be more interesting than it is. Mm-hmm. And then I don't include every single thing. Okay. But also because I'm doing, like, my videos are kind of a combination of my analysis and my construction of the timeline. Mm-hmm. So because I'm doing the timeline thing, more often what'll happen is if there's a part that I don't really have anything super interesting to say about it, I'll just kind of list it off as a thing that happened. Right. So I think like Stranger Things is a good example of that. There's, it's such a long season. So I'm talking about the Mind Flayer, and there's like 3 separate encounters with the Mind Flayer. And like in a perfect world, there would be unique things about each of those scenes that like, you can see Will's reaction right here, and this is what this means. But I didn't really find anything for that. So during that part of the video, I said, he had 3 more encounters from this date to this date, and I kind of skipped over a large portion of the story.
Okay.
So that I can just get into the analysis, which is what people are really there for.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing...
But I think it's also important to have both elements of that. I think that's part of why people like horror history, is because there's enough... Like, I try to do as little recap as possible, but there's kind of like enough there that it reminds them of something that they watched in the past, so that they can get the most out of the analysis, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, one thing that I actually am like trying to work my, like, I'm almost like working backwards on, is that like, I feel like after doing this for so long, I kind of expect myself to have all of the answers where on like any subject I'm talking about, and address every question. And when I come across a question that like doesn't have an interesting answer, for a long time, I've just kind of left it out. But I in some ways, I feel like that makes it just kind of like, it makes it a little more boring or less interesting So like now I'm trying to write things so that like if I don't understand something or I feel like the audience could contribute their own interpretation, then I want to try to like bring that out a little bit more, and
Yeah.
ask them about it. It's like, especially with this astrology series that I'm doing with the Chinese zodiac, it's like
Hmm.
there's 5 elements to the Chinese zodiac, and I want to explain every one in the most as thoroughly as possible so the viewer understands it. But like I don't there's elements of it that I don't totally understand myself. And I just
Right.
like just in this recent video, I was just like, I'll be honest, like I'm having a hard time putting this into words. But here is like my best guess at it.
Hmm.
And then that kind
Yeah,
of
I think
opens the door
people
for them.
appreciate that type of thing too because it's they are there to see your analysis, and I think there's value in kind of throwing up your hands and saying, there's no definitive answer for this, but if I were to try to give my take, I think it would be this.
Right. So if it were like, say you're researching a subject that you're not as familiar with, like if it's a brand new horror movie,
Mhm.
does that process go a little bit differently?
Um, yeah, I think the only difference is I might just watch it without taking notes the first time, and then I'm familiar with it, and then it's basically the same process. I just go through it a second time.
Okay. Are you still doing all the research yourself?
I've started experimenting with having researchers like put together outlines, especially like I was talking about. If I have somebody kind of put together the outline of everything that happened, and then I can spend more of my time just digging in and doing the analysis part, which I think is like the most enjoyable part for me.
Yeah, totally.
It saves me a little bit of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I ask because,
And I've also been experimenting with having people do like a first draft of the script. So in that case, I would watch whatever it is that I'm covering and then kind of say, like, this is my take in general, but I want you to go through and put everything in order and find like more supporting evidence for the take that I'm trying to convey here.
okay. Like because like since I'm researching more like scholarly type subjects with mythology and history,
Hmm.
I like have academics work like that applied for the jobs and that I hired. How do you find researchers?
Um, Mostly it's just like writers that I already trust.
Okay.
Um, so like there was one writer that I've worked with a lot that was initially just a fan of the channel and reached out and did like a couple of test pieces.
Nice.
There's one that was like formerly another YouTube channel that
Okay.
needed some extra work. So mostly stuff like that.
Nice. Is it hard for you to let go of the reins a little bit on in that area?
Yeah, and the thing that I found is when I first started hiring people, my thought was that they would be able to like attempt to do a script as if it was written by me, and then I would come in and do like a couple last second changes,
Hmm.
and it would save me. Like if I hired someone to do one script, it would save me the time of doing that like 99% of that script.
Yeah.
But what it really is it saves you maybe like 40 or 50%, and then you still have to come in and put your own personal touches on it. And sometimes if you're working with someone new, it can even be like I would spend the same or even more time
Hmm.
than I would if I had done it by myself. But the idea is that like I'm giving them good notes and they're getting a better sense of my writing style.
Okay.
Like editors, it's very hard to find good people on the writing side as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I had a ghostwriter working for me for like 3 to 4 months, and he was great. He got the vibe of the channel really well, but after I think he wrote like 6 scripts for me total, and every single one, I just like I don't know what it was, but it like I just didn't feel like it had my voice in it enough. And it was
Yeah,
just
that's always the thing for me. It's like either they get the research part or they get the voice part, but it's very hard to find people that do both. And
right.
so I usually spend at least like 50%
Hmm.
of what I would spend doing a full project shoring up either side of those.
Yeah, and it's like then it's just like at what point are you just like losing time and money by having this other person do it?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll end up spending more time and money than if I had done it myself with the hope that like the next one will be better.
Right. Yeah, that was the case for me as well. And yeah, I ended up just getting to a point where I was like, this just isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and it was no reflection on that writer's capability. It was just like this specific type of content needs to be written a certain way,
Right.
and yeah, I'm like I'm like got some like pretty dry, sarcastic humor, and I feel like it's really
Mm.
easy for that to slip into like immature sarcasm that's just like not that funny or like I don't know, just like I don't know, just elementary and basic.
Yeah.
So
The humor stuff is very like that's just a very touchy point for me because
yeah,
I don't want to put something in there that doesn't feel like my humor and it doesn't feel funny to me or authentic to my voice. So a lot of times the writers will put jokes in and like I always feel bad because I feel like I'm just ripping out their work.
totally.
But if it doesn't feel like my voice, then I just feel too awkward saying it.
Right. Yeah, that's
And I don't think my audience will like it either. I think it'll I don't know. Maybe the audience is not as much in tune, but I know like when I watch other YouTubers that I like, I can tell when it wasn't written by them, especially if it's somebody
mhm.
that I know.
Yeah, yeah, especially that.
Like it just stands out to me.
Right. Yeah, and then yeah, dude, just like building out the team is like we've said is just like the hardest part of this where it's like
Hmm.
I have I have this giant multiple spreadsheets of ideas for my different series and I'm like do not have the bandwidth to get it all done. And
Right.
now I've got these great editors, so like that's a good start, but somehow it's just like I always manage to fill my time up no matter what. And it's like, all
Hmm.
right, like it's like my subconscious or something like, all right, I've got somebody editing this. That means I can spend more time writing it and honing it and make it even better. And
Yeah, that's the exact same struggle for me,
yeah,
which is like definitely um it's definitely a point of stress for us, I think.
hmm,
But maybe it's also something that separates us from like those content farm channels where it is just like very plug and play and nothing really feels special. Because I think
yeah,
we both have that element of perfectionism where we want each thing to be better than the last and to stand on its own
exactly.
as a good piece of media.
Yeah. And it's like not I would say like there's not a single one of my videos that I feel I did perfectly where I hit every single point that I wanted to. It's usually just like here was the allotted time that I had to work on it and I filled every bit of it that I could. But like yeah,
Do you give yourself like a very hard deadline? Like this has to be out on this day?
usually, yeah. Like usually sponsors help with that. Because I have a
Mm,
sponsor, well, at least up until recently, I was having a sponsor basically every week. I had to
yeah.
cut back on it just because it's like you've seen my health update video. I've basically just like blown out the tendons in my arms and hands so that
Hmm.
typing at for so long in the day ends up causing me a lot of pain and I'm not able to do other things that I like to do with my time. And it's yeah, it sucks. So
Yeah, and I think that's something that goes along with just being a business owner in general, being an entrepreneur. Like
right.
there will always be you'll never just, I could give myself the goal of having a video out every week and even if I was somehow able to get that video out or
Hmm.
get the video complete by Wednesday and it's coming out on Saturday, I would find new things to do
Right.
because there's always stuff to do to improve your business, whereas a lot of people are used to working for someone else and it's like they go for their whatever hours they have, and then they have this time where they don't have to think about it. But for us, there's really no time.
Yeah, right.
Because like all of the responsibility is on you. All of the writers and editors are relying on you to keep that thing going.
Yeah, and I feel I think you've mentioned before, it's like anytime, like say like you've had this same struggle where I'll take a week off from uploading, and I think like that'll get me a week ahead of schedule, right? Like no, of course not. It just ends up being there is a similar crunch is there, a similar deadline, and it's not possible with the current mindset that I have with my work.
Yeah.
I have a very toxic
I think a lot of
relationship.
people also don't realize like all of the different other hats that you have to wear as a creator. Like you're not just making videos, but there's all of the, I mean, we talked about some of the BS that we have to deal with from YouTube on the back end. And then there's like promoting your work and making sure things are up to date and all of your assets are organized and stuff. And like, even if I wasn't making videos at all, I feel like I would still be working around the clock just with all of the other, like managing the business side of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, again, you would just fill your time up because you have that time and there's a theoretically infinite amount of work that you could be doing. Like, I started posting, I was posting shorts like 4 days a week for a little over a year. And then finally was just like, I'm only going to do 2 shorts. It's too much to handle.
Yeah. I mean, that's another aspect of it is there are so many different features and platforms to worry about now.
Right.
That like even just syndicating to all of the different platforms to take advantage of getting as much reach as you want could be a full-time job.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they have shorts. I try to do a community post every day, and then they have live streams. So it's like there's so many opportunities and you have to make that decision like, okay, which ones do I actually want to focus on?
Right.
Because I mean, maybe for us going back to the earlier days of YouTube, you would just try to do everything that they offered and just take advantage of everything that's there. But maybe like we still have that mindset, but in today's world, it doesn't make sense to try to do everything.
No, like,
and I think I'm realizing that because I tried to do the shorts thing for a while too, but I think I'm realizing that I'm just like not a shorts channel.
Right.
And people are there for my longs. And if I'm not doing shorts all the time, then that's okay.
Yeah.
But that's also hard to come to terms with because then I feel like I'm falling behind because other people are doing shorts.
So yeah, exactly. And it's like and like even the gains that you make from shorts are like kind of questionable. It's like it's nice that we've started to get revenue from TikTok and Facebook even, but those vary wildly from like a really hot month to 3 months of making, $11. And then it's like I've gotten a lot of YouTube subscribers from posting my shorts, but how many of those people are subscribing for my long form content? I don't think anyone goes to their sub feed and looks at shorts. So like I'm just like, I'm looking at my subscriber number and it's like just a vanity thing at this point. Like, cool. I have I don't even know how many I have at this point, 1.8 something or close to it, 1.79. And it's like, I'm not getting 1.79 million views on every video. Wouldn't that be fucking nice? So you don't even know what they're subscribing for. Like YouTube's got like a great analytics feature where it tells you the videos that people to subscribe and how many of them actually returned after watching it. And some of my most viewed shorts have like a very low return on people who come back because people just saw the one thing, they thought it was cool, and that was it. Like they just kind of forgot it existed.
The whole like I don't know what you want to call it, like the subscriber ecosystem has been thrown into chaos a little bit with the introduction of shorts and TikTok, because I feel like the barometer for someone to follow some based on having seen a short is just lower because it's seeing a short is a lower time commitment. So I could follow this person and have them show up in my feed.
Yeah.
And it's just not as big of a commitment as opposed to subscribing to a channel that posts like 10 plus minute videos or more.
Right. Right.
And it's kind of creating just this weird chaos because there's the whole play button thing. So
yeah, that too.
Traditionally, creators who pass 100,000 subscribers get a silver play button, and 1 million subscribers get a gold play button. But they have changed the design a couple times, and they changed it recently, and it seems to just be that so many people are getting them now because they're just building like an artificially high number of subscriber based on shorts. I mean, I shouldn't say artificially, but it's just like it doesn't translate 1-to-1 between shorts and longs.
No, it doesn't. Not at all.
I think it's possible if you're like a full-time shorts creator to build that number much faster.
Yeah. Did they change the play buttons recently?
Yeah, so now they're smaller, and you know the old play buttons where it was like a play button shaped thing inside of a glass case?
Yeah.
It's like that, but without the glass case. So it's just it's not a plaque anymore so much. It's literally more the shape of a play button.
Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, like I feel like I got oh yeah, I'm seeing this now. New YouTube 1 million plaque compared to the old one. It's a lot smaller.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I feel like I hit 1 million subscribers right before that number stopped mattering as much.
Yeah.
It was like 2021. I don't think YouTube Shorts were a thing yet, maybe. Yeah, I think it was 2021.
Or they're just starting to be a thing around then, probably.
Right. And it's like, yeah, I do miss the excitement around like seeing those numbers climb up. And now it's more of just like, to me, it's just like confirmation. Okay, my videos are getting in front of new eyes, but that's
it was July 2021 for shorts.
Okay. Yep. There you go.
I do think there's still value in the subscriber number.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's less of an exact science than it was before, but it is a good barometer of like, okay, people are enjoying your content.
Yeah, it does. Like, especially if you have long form videos on there, it shows that you're like actually posting quality stuff that people want to see. Like, there's one channel that I follow where his shorts like routinely get into the millions of views, but then his long form videos are like 10 to 30K at the absolute most. And
that's every big shorts creator.
Yeah. And it's like at a point where I don't even think he posts longs anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I meet a lot of shorts creators at the creator collectives and events and conventions and stuff. And everybody, like the most common person that I meet is they started in 2020 during COVID. They got really big, and now they're trying to transition from shorts to longs because the shorts are not very lucrative.
No, they're not. And they fluctuate wildly. And it's like on TikTok, it's crazy. Like where it's like the more views the short gets, the more the RPM increases too. So it's like we had a month where I got like, it was like $1.30 for every 1,000 views, and the short got like a couple million views, so it translated really nice. But then as soon as that video wasn't viral anymore, we dropped down to like 20 cents per 1,000 views. And when you're only getting like 10 to 20,000 views at a time, that it just doesn't add up.
Right.
Yeah, it's like that's not a viable income by any stretch. But I do enjoy shorts. I think in a way it's made me a better long form creator to have to write like a little snappier for shorts. And
that's interesting.
Yeah. And it's just it's like different kind of practice. And I like it because it's helped me. Like as someone who's been posting content for so long, there was a period where I had kind of forgotten some of the earliest stuff that I had posted, like even in my Messed Up Origins series. So now I have all of that pretty fresh in my head from covering it through shorts.
That's cool. I think there's this theory about how shorts have also impacted longs, and I think it kind of goes in line with what you were saying there. Shorts have become like such a proven format to be like addictive for the audience that a lot of successful long form creators, if you look at what the video actually is, it's basically a series of shorts on the same topic.
Right, exactly.
So if you look at like, you know, the most viral like Mr. Beast stuff, it's like those challenge videos he does. It's a series of short challenges, and it's like there's a hook, there's suspense, and there's a conclusion. And it's like that same format happening over and over again.
Yes.
On a small scale, as opposed to like what you would traditionally expect from a long form video, where there's one hook at the beginning of the video and one conclusion at the end.
Right. Yeah. And that I used to, you know, I used to write my videos with the mentality of like, this might not be the snappiest, hookiest intro, but people who care about the subject matter will watch it, and those are the people that I want to subscribe to me anyway. But now, like, I have, like, maybe I could have stuck with that, but it just doesn't seem to work so well. Where, like, even those people have fallen victim to the shorts kind of warping their brain with what they expect from their content. So they do need that intro, suspense, payoff multiple times throughout the video.
Right. And I think that's why you're seeing so much, so many of these videos where it's like the word every is a part of it.
Yeah.
Like, I went to every rainforest cafe.
Right.
I watched like every Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah. No, exactly. Where it's like, it's all of these old, what's the word? It's superlatives. Like, it's, I did the most this, or I watched the worst this. Like, and that, like, in a way that could be fun to incorporate. I have my own ideas for how to incorporate that into my niche as well, but it's like, I don't know. It's also a bit of a bummer.
Oh yeah. I've found that my Things You Missed series has not been performing as much, and I have my theories as to why that happened, but I think the core content is still something that appeals to people, but the packaging.
It's the packaging.
It's the packaging. And so I started doing this thing where I would do these compilations. So instead of separate videos for like things you missed in Final Destination 1, things you missed in Final Destination 2, I started doing like, I found every secret in the Final Destination franchise. And it's this huge video, and it's just compilations of videos that I've already released, but people love those compilations and they perform way better than the individual things you missed.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, we've had a little bit of success as well, like doing something similar. Like and it's like stuff I had no intention of doing, you know, and the same goes for you. I'm sure when I made the initial video, I was like, this is going to be the episode on whatever subject it is. And then I can just, then a couple months goes by or a year goes by, and I'm like, well, I guess I could kind of, all of these videos are connected in a certain way, and I could just package them all together with like basically like the messed up mythology of every child of Loki, or the messed up mythology of every astrological sign.
Right.
And yeah, like those do like even better, way better than the long forms that I was posting of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is, it is the same stuff, but whatever.
I think I really took note of that. Are you familiar with Jessie V?
Mm-mm.
So she does these kind of like these deep dives on just like urban legends and spooky topics and stuff. But basically something happened where she got sick and she had like this botched dental procedure or something. There's a story about it on her channel, which is kind of horrifying. But
oh God,
basically during that time she was not able to talk and she wasn't able to keep producing content. But she had a huge back catalog of videos, and she just started compiling them in different ways. And in my mind as a viewer, that would kind of drive people away, because it's like, oh, you're just regurgitating the same content. It's like the same thing as like back in the television era when they had clip shows. and it
Totally.
just feels like you're not getting additional value. But I think on YouTube it's just a different thing because there's, you can be reaching a different audience, and people aren't necessarily actively like seeking out reruns the same way that, they're not being served reruns in the same way that they were on TV. And so by the time you feature something in a compilation, it's almost like a welcome thing from the audience. It's like, oh, I haven't seen this in a while. Let's refresh my mind on like what he talked about in this video.
Yeah.
And people kind of enjoy that.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I have had that like a similar thought as well, where like, yeah, at least back in the day, I would, I almost feel like I remember YouTubers posting like the very occasional like repost, but like repackaged type of content, and people in the comments would get pissed about it. And I was always like so afraid of doing that. And then, in that way, YouTube has changed for the better, that I think, and I need to do that more. Because I did it last year with great success, and then this year I haven't been as much. But like,
yeah, and I feel like we always have the mind of a creator where we want to be adding value to each thing that we do.
Exactly.
And when I do those compilations, I'm always like, oh, maybe I should record a new intro so they're like at least getting something new out of this. And my business guys are like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, look at the analytics.
Right. And that's what I like tend to do too with the compilations, is like I end up making a little more work for myself than I really needed to, because it's like, I edited this 5 years ago and I didn't have the technical skills that I do now. Like I would, or I didn't have, I commission a lot of art. Now I have a sweet custom made thing that I can work into here. And I think that there's a good, like that's good in some ways and should be applied, like some of those updates, but it doesn't need to be, like, it doesn't have to. Like, people will be just as happy watching the thing that initially they liked back in the day when you first posted it.
Right.
And
but I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's like what puts us above those content farm kind of channels. It's like the fact that we will be looking out, and like maybe the audience would be happy with just like the straight up compile the videos in a linear way.
Right.
But if you give them something new and give them something like a little bit special with that video, then it's something that they wanted, but maybe they didn't know they wanted, and they'll get more out of it and be more likely to subscribe and be repeat viewers. I hope. At least that's what I tell myself in order to justify doing more work.
Yeah, totally. I think there's definitely some truth to that. Like you said, like we always want it. It's hard to upload a video knowing that it's not the best that it could be and that we left something out there. But yeah.
Yeah, I will delay my stuff if I feel like it's not ready yet, which kills me every time because it's like I know it's like so important for me, and I want to have stuff out every week because I know as a viewer I enjoy. I don't know. I just appreciate when there are creators that are really consistent about their uploads, and you can kind of always rely on them to be there for that piece of entertainment on that day. But at the same time, like it's the Shigeru Miyamoto philosophy of if you rush something and put it out and it's bad, then it'll always be bad. But if you delay something, then it will eventually be good. Right.
Like I've watched enough like behind the scenes and like videos on movies that just tanked when everybody thought they were going to be great to know that spending that extra time is almost always worth it. But it does kill me when it's like, it helps the analytics so much to put something out every week, and it keeps that like revenue number from sinking down too low. And there are times where it's just like, where do you draw the line? Like at what point am I just being a perfectionist, and even adding this section might even hurt the video because I'm going into a long drawn out tangent versus, just getting to the point basically and keeping it nice and tight.
I think people do love tangents as long as they are not filler.
Yeah, that's true. As long as there's value
But
there.
yeah, I think one of the biggest problems just with basically with society in general is a lot of people just don't have future sight. Like they're not able to think past the immediate moment and the immediate gratification.
Right.
And that's kind of something that you're doing by putting extra effort into a video, because like if you look at your monthly analytics and you skip a week, then it's going to dip because you don't have the upload for that week. But then like in the long term, if you're able to go that extra mile and create something great that's going to become evergreen, then that's going to have a small boost on like all future months, and in the long run
that stacks
it's better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true.
I also feel like there's just a ton of things about doing YouTube that people don't really like. The typical viewer doesn't understand the work that goes into it.
No, not at
Like
all.
I always get comments like, "Oh, why don't you do a video on so and so?" And it's like a huge topic.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like people think that like the time required to produce the video is just turning on the camera and talking.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, and then actually, that brings me to one of my questions that I wanted to ask you is like, how long from idea conception to pressing publish does it usually take for you to get a video done?
It depends on the video, because my videos are
They range
widely
wildly
different
in time.
in length and just like how complex they are. But I guess like a typical video on my channel is like a 30-minute horror history. So
Okay.
I'll probably spend a week writing that. Excuse me. I'll probably spend about a week writing that. Filming it is honestly the shortest part. It'll just be several hours.
Yeah.
And then post-production will be a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So usually 3 to 4 weeks total.
Okay. That's kind of what it is for me too. It's like I usually plan out my stuff months in advance, and I will start working on it actively like 4 weeks before it starts. And it's like balancing multiple different videos at the same time. So it's like you got to prioritize the video that you're working on right away, but like the one that's slated up next, but you also need to give yourself enough runway on that big topic or whatever you have planned out in the future. It's a big balance.
That's one of the biggest things that stresses me out when I have multiple things to do and I know there's like deadlines coming up on both of them.
Right.
And I just get like overwhelmed, and it's like, okay, which one do I work on first?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I feel the same way. It's nice having some researchers to help me. It sucks because like I don't get to even like discuss with them the subject as much as I usually would like to. Like usually I'll have them research, they send me their notes, and ideally we'll have a meeting. I have like a handful more questions of like, here's some more breadcrumbs you can follow, or here's things that viewers might want to know more about. But lately it's just been, they give me the notes and then I review them right before I start writing the script. And in that time, usually when I'm writing, I'll have to do like a little bit of extra research because new questions will come up as the script, like as I'm explaining it, I'm like, oh yeah, I am raising more questions than I initially asked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the tough part about working with researchers and stuff is they're like, when I'm writing a script, there's kind of stuff that I discover as I'm doing the research that ends up being more a part of it than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
But what I've been doing is I basically have a little form for myself for each project to get things going. So whatever the topic is, there's like a series of questions that I have, and I'm basically filling out like, okay, here's what I want to be included. Here are like my personal details about this topic for you to try to incorporate. So I give myself like this short homework assignment to give them so they have a better idea of how to put the script together. And I think that's something that's a little bit helpful. And then I think like one of the most important things is having an outline phase so they can put together like the stuff they're going to talk about, kind of put everything in order. And then if there are areas that I want to expand, I can just read through the outline and be like, all right, let's talk, let's add this in between this and this, or like this isn't super relevant to the topic, so let's cut this part. And that kind of prevents people from spending a lot of time going off for 4 pages about like a certain aspect of the script that I don't even want to include.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, because that happens.
The problem is that some people get too excited and like we tell them to do the outline and then they just jump into the script anyways. It happens all the time.
Oh, damn. How big is your team now? Are you able to say?
I have like 2 editors on staff, a business manager. Technically there's a 3rd editor that does like contract stuff that's not related to CZsWorld, just stuff that I was doing before.
Okay.
That is easy enough for me to keep going.
Nice.
And then that's all I can say for now.
Okay, cool.
But I'll just say that it is going to grow soon.
Nice. Well, that's exciting.
Well, when is this going to come out?
This will be out, honestly, this Thursday, ideally.
Okay, yeah, it's going to grow soon.
Okay, cool. I'm excited to hear more about that. One of my last questions is, have you ever like researched so deeply into a topic that you're just kind of like sick of it or no longer into it by the time you actually finish the content?
I wouldn't say that I'm no longer into it, but I would say that I get so deep into it that I just need a break. And just working on the same thing for 16 hours a day for several days in a row, I will just kind of burn myself out of that topic.
Yeah,
and
that's definitely
one
fair.
thing that's been helpful for that is, what was it? Like beginning or mid last year, I added this kind of commentary series. Mm-hmm. So instead of just doing like character after character analysis on horror history about once a month or something, probably a little bit less than that, I'm just mixing in these commentary videos where it's just me talking about a topic that I find interesting. So like one of my favorite ones from that series is the Coraline theorists are completely unhinged.
I did see you posted that one. I wanted to watch it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, because you've done the Coraline content in the past, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should definitely check that one out. I'm sure some of the people... So it's about, like, these various YouTubers that, they come up with their Coraline theories, and then they start getting views, and it's like, Coraline is the thing that works for them, because it's such... it's a great movie, and it's popular.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, how can I keep doing Coraline content? And they start reaching more and more, and it just gets, like, these theories just get so insane.
Yeah, I can't even watch those for that reason. I'm just like, as somebody I'm pretty grounded, I think, in my approach to the origins of these things. And it's like, some creators will like, some dumbass posted a video about how Coraline was actually like a girl who was murdered, and that's what the story is based on. Or
every single media franchise has that same theory, like copy and pasted to it.
Right. I'm just like, and then the only people watching it are probably like 10-year-olds who haven't figured out how to Google things reliably, but they get millions of views because they're telling them what they want to hear, which is that this movie is really, really dark and scary. And it's like, it's actually, the author was just writing a spooky book for his daughter. So, and that's fucking it. He did not, like, there's a lot of folklore that gets brought into it, and that folklore has creepy elements to it for sure, but no one had to be killed in order for this story to be made. It's just bizarre to me. Like, do we really?
And I think some of those viewers are kind of in on the joke for some of them.
Probably. You're probably right about that.
Some of them are just like kids or people that just haven't been exposed to a lot of that type of content who will believe it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I should watch
the Coraline
that
theorist one was really
video.
fun. What was that?
I should watch your theorist video on that.
Yeah, for sure. The most recent one that I did was this one about TikTok horror pipelines are ruining childhoods.
Oh, okay.
And it's just kind of like a fun... a lot of them are like more new media centric than movie centric. So it's just kind of a fun palate cleanser to be able to go into something that is horror, but it's not the typical, it's not just like a character analysis on the next horror villain
Right.
on my list.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like I have started to and then I haven't so much taken action on these yet because I'm just kind of making videos that for the most part I just know will get a good chunk of views because I have to pick and choose what I'm doing with my current health situation. But I like, and I think it comes with being an like, I don't want to say expert, but just operating in our specific niches for so long that you start to become familiar with all of the memes that exist within it and the misconceptions and weird trends. And it's fun to provide your own insight. And I think that in a way that's really good for, I don't want to say like brand building, but just like connecting with the viewer and getting them to be a little more interested in you in particular, because you're giving a like refreshing perspective on this thing that they probably have seen pop up in their algorithm here and there since they're a fan of that genre in general.
Yeah. Well, I think for some of them, like with horror history episodes, the more, if it's like a mainstream horror franchise, like I posted the Jason Voorhees horror history last year.
Yeah.
And I knew that was going to do well because, he's one of the biggest horror icons. He's part of one of the biggest horror franchises.
Right.
But with some of the commentary videos that I've been doing, I think people enjoy them because it's something that they may not be familiar with. So if they're people that primarily watch YouTube and they're not necessarily in tune with what's going on TikTok, this is like, even if it's something that happened a few months ago, it's new to them.
Right. That's cool. Yeah, it's nice to kind of like expand their perspective of the genre a little bit.
They may not have gone down the Coraline theorist rabbit hole.
Yeah, and God bless them for that. Like, how lucky are they?
Yeah.
I know. It's like, and I think that's what some people, like at least with me, like I had one YouTuber recently tell me that he thought that my videos, like judging by the thumbnails and titles, were a lot more like gimmicky and kind of like those, almost like those Coraline theorist videos. It's like the messed up origins of Coraline. Like it's kind of open-ended and there's a lot of room to like work in some bullshit theories like that. And honestly, maybe I should have in hindsight and like at least addressed a few of them and said, this isn't true. This isn't true. But he did say like, then I actually watched your stuff and I realized it's a lot better researched than I had anticipated.
Right. Yeah. So people have been calling those plug and play formats. So it's, you have messed up origins of blank and you can fill in blank with whatever you want. And I feel like there are kind of pros and cons to having that. The pros are like, once you have that established audience, they kind of know what they're getting,
right,
and that they know the value they're getting out of those videos. But the cons are people that aren't familiar with it may not fully understand. It does kind of look like one of those series where it's kind of more surface level stuff.
Right.
And I think that is something that happened to me with when I was talking earlier about things you missed not really performing anymore, and like the Every Secret video is performing better. I think what happened with Things You Missed is there were so many like imitator series, and there were so many of just like those film reaction channels that just kind of, they watch a movie and then they turn the camera on and talk for 10 minutes, like the way that people think that we make our videos, but it's not. They would throw that in there. They would throw like any popular buzzword, like Things You Missed or Ending Explained from Found Flicks, or sometimes they just load their title up with like Jordan Peele's new movie, Things You Missed, Ending Explained, and Kill Count.
My God, dude.
So I think what started to happen is like the average viewer associated Things You Missed with a low quality video that they had seen from other channels.
Yeah.
And then now that they're seeing it on my channel, my content hasn't changed, but because they associate it with that, they're going to be less likely to click on it.
Yeah, that's a very astute observation. I definitely feel like that's been the case. Probably not to quite the extent, but to a similar extent that you're talking about, where like I'll see, like instead of the messed up origins of, it's the messed up true story of this, or the dark origins of this. And it is pretty much always like I'm hesitant to call out anybody in particular, even though I would love to.
Yeah, I already know who you're talking about. So
yeah, it's just like it's so frustrating, and it sucks that like they can garner millions of views off of like, our type of content, but it's just such trash that it actually just contaminates the well for the rest of us. But
and I also don't want to be in the position of like where I feel like nobody else can use those terms.
That too. That's not fair.
Like, I could make my video and another creator could cover the same topic and have original ideas that they contribute. It's just that more often than not, it ends up being just kind of slop.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, and I'm glad you said that, because that's totally true. Is like I can't get mad when somebody does do like the dark true story or the messed up true story. Like I considered for a while trademarking messed up origins. I'm still like not totally opposed to it, just because I really don't think many people do that specific title anymore. Like I do feel like I've kind of at least taken over that phrase, but there are similar phrases that they have every right to use. But the reason that it bothers me is because it's usually not a good video, and it gets 10, honestly, sometimes 10 times as many views as the video that I posted.
Because they just and the reason that it does so well is because they put less effort into it, and it's like more timely.
Right, exactly. And they're more so concerned about just like telling people what they want to hear. So it's like you see like the messed up true story behind Coraline, and some people will like immediately go to something dark, like it's based off of some poor little girl that something horrible happened to. And then they watch the video that confirms that. But
I also don't want to, like, I tend to tread carefully with that kind of stuff, because at the end of the day, like, things you missed or messed up origins are just words in the English language. So it's like, I want to make it clear that I'm not trying to take ownership of that combination of words.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to
have more so like the idea of the brand.
Yeah, you don't want like a kids react situation going down, like
exactly.
Is it the Fine Bros? Is that their name?
The Fine Bros, yeah.
Yeah, like not interested in doing
for people that aren't
that.
familiar, the Fine Bros had this React series, and like 10 years ago they tried to copyright the word React essentially, and they wanted anyone who used React in their videos to, like, what was it, pay them royalties or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. Or just not use that
and
title at all.
And they got so much blowback, and they pretty much immediately retracted that.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, it's not fair, even as creators who've been doing it as long as we have, to just completely take over that subject. Like, in a way, we already have the advantage because we've been doing it for so long, and we have that backlog, and the algorithm's favoring us to a certain extent. But yeah, the issue comes in when the packaging is there, and then the video itself is not. Although I did have one person who literally just took my thumbnail and also took my title and then just photoshopped.
Yeah, that's what I was about to bring up. I have that happen all the time.
So frustrating.
It's like, if you want to use the words horror history, I don't know why you would want to, because people are going to associate that with me. But if you want to do it, like, again, those are just two words in the English language. You're within your rights to do that.
Yeah.
But when you take my logo with the arrows and just put it in your video, that's, I think, where it crosses the line.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a subtle difference, but it speaks volumes,
Yeah. I have a whole spreadsheet of just content that I've come across that does that type of thing. Like
oh, damn.
I don't know. I don't understand why, like, what the appeal of that is for a creator. They almost go to painstaking lengths to try to imitate it. And it's like, okay, I get my content is like a proven formula that works, but it's like, why do you want to make content in the first place if you don't want to be creative?
Right.
That's something I've never understood.
Yeah, like, isn't that the purpose of it, is to like kind of find your own thing and do your own thing? But some people,
and
it's
those
just a
imitator
cash
videos
grab.
that like totally reconstruct your thumbnail, those ones never tend to get a lot of views. So it's not like
Right.
they're just doing it for money. So like, what do they think they're getting out of this?
Yeah, right? Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, they're even some of those people, they don't even make, like, they're just react channels. So they don't make content like ours consistently enough to make a dent in the algorithm or try to take it over. It's just, they just want to exploit a trend because, yeah, like you said, it's timely, or they just know that they found the right creepypasta that they can attach to it.
I mean, I've seen ones where it's not even so much a react video, but they just kind of like do my same format, same topic, and they basically just make the same video. And there are even ones that I've seen where like they try to recreate my graphic packages and stuff.
Oh, no
and
way.
But then they're like, they'll do that, and then I'll see things that are like clearly ripped from my video, and I can tell because like the same background is still in there, or like the exact arrow that I used, which is something that I created, is in their video. Like they literally just took a clip from my video and pointed out something that I pointed out with their voice, but it's my footage, and it's like,
that's fucked up,
what,
dude.
why?
Yeah, why? Again, like you said, like, what is the point of doing that if you're not exercising your creativity?
Yeah.
But I feel like we've probably covered the gambit. Is that a saying?
Maybe. Goes by so fast.
I know, dude.
Once you get us talking about YouTube, it can just go on and on.
Honestly, like, I could probably go for another hour, but we'll spare people and we'll save something for the next podcast.
Sounds good.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining, man. Everybody, where can they find you on YouTube under CZsWorld? Is that your handle on everything?
Mostly. TikTok and Twitter are CZsWorld_horror, but just find CZsWorld on YouTube and you can find all the breakout links from there.
So that does it for our second official Messed Up interview. But I swear I'm going to come up with a better name than that. Let me know your thoughts in a comment if you got any, and suggestions for future guests. Although, before you comment the mythology guy, you should know that I've emailed Andrew several times over the past few months, and I'm still waiting on a response. We were planning on a collab back in September of last year, but then we both got really busy around the same time, and things just kind of fell through, and then I haven't heard from him since. So if you do want to see it happen, tell him that. I'm not throwing any shade at Andrew, by the way. I know he's a busy guy too. I think that my carrier pigeon must have the wrong address or something. Thank you so much for watching, though. The fact that you made it all the way to the end of this episode means more than I can put into words. I'll see you again next week when I unpack some messed up sequels. Until then, my name is Jon Solo, and remember, Jon shot first.